The day my world shattered started like any other. Damon kissed me goodbye, a peck on the cheek so routine I barely registered it. He was off to a business conference, or so he said. I tidied up the breakfast dishes, humming along to the radio, completely oblivious. It wasn't until later that evening, when I was scrolling through my phone, that I saw it. A tagged photo on a friend of a friend's social media page. It was a group shot from a local music festival. And there, in the background, unmistakable, was my husband, Damon. His arm was wrapped tightly around a woman I didn't recognize, her head resting on his shoulder. They were laughing, their faces close, illuminated by the stage lights. It wasn't a business conference, it was a lie. My first instinct was to throw my phone against the wall. To scream, to cry, to call him and demand an explanation. My fingers hovered over his contact, my thumbs shaking. But I stopped. A cold, strange calm washed over me. What would happen if I called him? He would deny it. He would lie more. He would say she was just a friend, that I was overreacting. He would turn it around and make me the villain, the crazy, jealous wife. I knew his patterns. I'd seen him do it before, twisting minor disagreements until I was the one apologizing. I wasn't ready for that fight. Not yet. So, I did nothing. I took a screenshot, saved it to a hidden folder, and went to bed. I stayed silent. The next few days were a masterclass in acting. When Damon came home, full of stories about keynote speakers and networking events, I smiled and nodded. I asked him if he had a good time. He said it was exhausting but productive. He brought me a cheap keychain from the conference hotel. I thanked him and put it on my keys, the plastic trinket feeling like a lead weight in my hand. Every smile felt like a crack in a porcelain mask. Every "I love you" he uttered felt like a sharp jab. I was living with a stranger, a man who could look me in the eye and build a castle of lies without flinching. My silence wasn't weakness, it was a shield. I was observing, gathering my thoughts, trying to understand what my next move should be. Living in that silence was like holding my breath underwater. The pressure was immense. Every time he touched me, I had to fight the urge to recoil. Every shared meal was filled with unspoken words hanging in the air between us. I started paying closer attention. I noticed the little things I'd previously dismissed. The late nights at the office. The way he guarded his phone, angling it away from me. The new cologne he started wearing. It was a classic stereotypical playbook of a cheater, and I couldn't believe I had been so blind. Each new discovery was another piece of the puzzle, another confirmation of his betrayal. But still, I held my tongue. I was no longer the naive wife. I was a detective in my own home, piecing together the evidence of my broken marriage. During this time, I started doing things for myself. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with. I started going to the gym, not for him, but for me. I poured my energy into a work project I'd been putting off. I was quietly building a life for myself, a foundation separate from him. I needed to know who Aris was without Damon. I started a private bank account, tucking away a little money from each paycheck. It felt like a secret escape fund. This wasn't just about catching him. It was about preparing myself for the aftermath. The silence gave me the space to grieve the marriage I thought I had, and to start planning for the future I would have to build on my own. It was a painful, lonely process, but with each passing day, I felt a little stronger, a little more prepared for the storm I knew was coming. The confrontation happened about a month after I saw the photo. It wasn't a dramatic, explosive fight like in the movies. It was quiet, almost surgical. He came home late again, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine. He gave his usual excuse about a client dinner. I just looked at him and said, "Was her name Sarah?" His face went pale, all the color drained from it. He stammered, trying to form a denial, but the words wouldn't come. I didn't shout, I didn't cry. I simply laid out the evidence, the photo, the phone records I'd found, the credit card statements with charges for hotels and restaurants I'd never been to. I presented my case calmly like a lawyer in a courtroom. His lies crumbled one by one, leaving him exposed and pathetic. There was no grand apology, no begging for forgiveness. Just a hollow look in his eyes. He knew he was caught. In that moment, I didn't feel rage anymore. I just felt empty, pity, even. He had thrown away 12 years of our life for cheap thrills. I told him I wanted a divorce. I told him I had already spoken to a lawyer. He looked shocked, as if he never considered that I would actually leave him. He thought he could have his cake and eat it too. He underestimated me. He mistook my silence for acceptance, my calm for weakness. But my silence was my power. It gave me the time to detach emotionally and prepare practically. Walking away was the hardest and best thing I ever did. The days that followed were a blur of paperwork and difficult conversations. We had to sell the house, divide our lives, and tell our families. It was heartbreaking. But through it all, I felt a sense of liberation I hadn't felt in years. I was no longer living a lie. I was no longer holding my breath. I was free. I moved into a small apartment of my own, and the first night I spent there alone was the most peaceful night's sleep I'd had in months. It was the beginning of my new life. It's been 2 years now. Rebuilding has been a journey. There were good days and bad days. Days where I felt strong and independent, and days where loneliness was a heavy blanket. But I never regretted my decision. I learned to love my own company. I traveled. I took up new hobbies. I invested in my friendships. I found joy in the little things, a quiet morning with a cup of coffee, a good book, the freedom to be completely and utterly myself. I learned that my worth was not tied to my marital status or to a man's fidelity. My worth comes from within. Damon and I are divorced. I hear through the grapevine that he and the other woman didn't last. It doesn't matter to me anymore. His story is no longer a part of my story. If you are going through something similar, know that your pain is valid. But also know that you are so much stronger than you think. Sometimes, the quietest moments are when we can hear our own voice the clearest. My silence wasn't about forgiveness or condoning his actions. It was about taking back my power, protecting my heart, and planning my escape. It allowed me to walk away not as a victim, but as a survivor who chose her own future. And that future, the one I'm living now, is bright. Thanks for listening to my story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. You are not alone.